You just press the button.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
This is a real button.
So I was just asked to talk about my views on sustainable energy, and maybe I'll start off with just saying maybe some obvious stuff about why I think it's important. And I think this is something that is really almost tautological. We must have sustainable energy, both production and consumption, or we will face massive economic collapse. So that is a problem we know we must solve, one way or another. The challenge we face right now is, this will occur no matter what, but the problem is that we have these low-cost stored hydrocarbons in the ground that have accumulated over hundreds of millions of years, perhaps in some cases over billions of years in the case of methane. So that's a problem because we're taking trillions of tons of carbon dioxide that was buried deep in the Earth's crust and putting it in the atmosphere. And then some of that migrates into the oceans and causes acidification. So we're essentially running this massive chemical experiment on the oceans and atmosphere. And the reason I think that's incredibly dumb is because we know we're going to run out of that stuff anyway and have to find an alternative. So why are we running this massive chemical experiment on our oceans and atmosphere when we know we have to find an alternative anyway? It's the stupidest thing I could possibly imagine. And I don't think that logic is as a function of somebody's party affiliation or ideology. It's just a function of rationality. It sort of feels a bit like we're like that. If you've seen those delayed gratification experiments with the kids got you can have two cupcakes if you wait 5 minutes, or you can have one cupcake if you eat it now. and that's actually quite a good predictor of the kid's future success. Okay. We're the kid who scarfs the cupcake in 3 seconds. We're like, but you could have had two. Anyway, that's the sort of silly situation we find ourselves in. So I think what I've tried to do is to try to be helpful in accelerating the transition to sustainable energy on the production side with solar power. I feel strongly that solar power will be the single largest source of sustainable energy in terms of power production that humans consume. It's actually worth noting that the Earth is almost entirely solar powered already. We would be a tiny frozen ice ball at about 3 or 4 degrees above absolute zero if it wasn't for the sun. The sun powers our entire system of precipitation. It's the basis for the whole ecosystem. You know, as we learned in elementary school, the sun powers the plants and the plankton, and the animals eat that, and we eat the animals and the plants. And so the ecosystem of Earth, the life forms of Earth, are almost entirely solar powered already. So we're really talking about taking a little portion of that energy, converting it to electricity for use in human economic activity, and that's what it amounts to. So, and what a lot of people perhaps don't realize is that if you took just a relatively small section of the United States, something say 100 miles by 100 miles. I mean, you could take sort of a corner of Utah or Nevada or something like that, and if you blanketed that with commercial grade efficiency solar panels on the order of 20% efficiency, you would actually generate all the power needed by the entire country. So, and this is simple math. You can go and do the back of the envelope math, and you'll see this is very easily correct. Given that, it's obvious we need to go make a lot of solar panels and get them installed. It's also helpful in that you can put solar panels at point of use. So you can put them on the roof of a business or a home and directly power the home during the period when it needs the most electricity, which is typically during a summer when the air conditioning is running at full strength. So it tends to match quite well to energy usage, and then now long term we need to pair that with energy storage in order to have 24-hour day power. So having low cost batteries for grid storage is going to be important as well. What about subsidies for solar? And it's like, okay, look, how about if we just made the subsidies for oil and gas and solar the same? If that seems like a reasonable thing. You know, it's yeah, I mean, it's like sort of like cigarettes or alcohol or something like that. I mean, you should at least tax stuff the same or subsidize it the same. Ideally, you should tax the things that are bad for you more than the things that are good for you. That sort of seems like it would be common sense. Hopefully that doesn't sound crazy. Although it is amazing how much opposition one gets to these things. And it's tough. I mean, one can't expect the oil and gas industry to you know, they have a huge amount of money, and it's tempting for them to spend a bunch of that on preserving and maximizing their, you know, profit and whatnot. But it's, I don't know, it's sort of vexing. And so that's on the power generation side, and so SolarCity is working as hard as possible to try to scale up solar power, make it more and more affordable, have the economics be sensible, but it sure is tough when you've got the ability to pull natural gas out of the ground at next to nothing. So it's a pretty hard bar to cross, but nonetheless we're going to give it our best shot there. I think that's I'm nearing the end of my time, so thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure being here.